Are you looking for better foot and ankle mobility and stability both? A lot of us don't realize how much that goes into everything we do. For me personally, if I have just a slight difference in the knuckle of my big toe versus my pinky toe, I actually have a big shift in my squats. And so I'm going to show you today one of my favorite tricks to help improve both your foot and ankle mobility and stability. So first off, you need something that a band can anchor to, and then you need something that gives you a lot of good band tension. You do want to do this without feet. A very common foot mobility drill is to do what I'm about to show you in just the forward direction where you're elevated and the band is lower than the elevation that you're on. The idea behind that is giving you a little bit better glide into that talus bone. You can use a stick or a post or something for balance as well. What you want to do is you're going to take a band. I put it up around my thigh so I can get a nice big strong stretch in that band. I want to get out there so it's really pulling me back and I've got to fight that band tension. And then when you put the band on, you want the band to favor more on the top of the foot, but you want it right at the base of that ankle joint. And so if it's up too high or above the ankle joint at all, this isn't going to do a whole lot. But if you can keep it on that lower part of the foot, this is where you're going to see a ton of benefit of this, both mobility and stability wise. Opposite foot can go wherever you want it. Think about keeping your foot really glued into the ground and a lot of your pressure in that leg. If this foot comes up, that band's going to yank you right back to the anchor. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about rotating my hip open so that knee's aligned more in that middle to outside part of my foot. And then from there, I'm just going to kind of push my knee out over my toe. I'm trying to keep my heel flat. I am biasing a little bit more pressure on that outside of the foot, but I'm really trying to drive that knuckle of my big toe down. So that way my foot's not rolling open. It's going to create a little bit of arch in the foot. And I'm going to hold there for a few seconds and I'm going to come out. I'm going to do that anywhere from like 10 to 20 times. And on my last one, I'll kind of hang out there and I'll kind of pump in that position a little bit. From there, once I get my 10 to 20, you need to be very cautious. Again, if you lose any pressure here, that band's going to pull you up, all right? And so then I'll rotate the opposite direction. A lot of times we focus so much on dorsal flexion, we forget plantar flexion is very important as well. And so what I'll do is I'll get it again right above or right on that Achilles tendon here. This one can be a little bit higher. This one's not as exact. But from here, I'll put my other foot back a little bit. I almost think like I'm driving my heel and my foot down, and I'm hinging my hips back into this hamstring stretch. Feeling that pull all the way up through the back of the leg, but it's putting a lot of pressure on the back of that Achilles to give me a little bit more glide. This is really useful to help you feel getting into plantar flexion a little better, especially if you do Olympic weightlifting. It helps you feel kind of pushing the knees out of the way, just like we want to off the floor. And so I'll do kind of the same thing here. I'll even sometimes on this one, I'll let this go forward and then come back and fight it a little bit. I'm just trying to create some motion. One, to help increase stability and glide in that ankle joint, but then two, it's also going to help focus on a lot of stability because I have to keep active tension straight down into the ground, or else again, that band's going to pull me back. From here, I'll go both directions. This one is probably my favorite direction to do. This needs to be just like we do on the forward direction where it is more on top of the foot, right at the base of that ankle joint. I need to really focus on keeping the pressure of my knuckle of my big toe down on the ground. Here I'm going to go a little more forward, so I'm not going to focus so much on trying to get on that outside of the foot. I'll do a little bit of both, honestly, because I want to be able to have full range of motion with that ankle joint. But from here, if I really kind of push that knee forward over the middle part of my foot or just over that big toe, keeping my whole foot pressure, I'm going to feel this all the way up through that adductor and into that pelvic floor typically. Same thing, I'm going to do anywhere from like 10 to 20 of these. This other foot's just here like a kickstand for balance. Use a post or something for balance as well in your hands if you need it. Oh. And then from there, that last, once I get done, I'm going to either kind of hang out and really feel that pressure as I sink the knee down, maybe even just do a few pumps in that range, but really feel that full foot pressure. And last but not least, I will rotate and go the opposite direction. Once again, do not let your foot lose pressure on the ground or it's going to yank you back. But I want to keep this same thing on the top of that foot, right at the base of the ankle joint. And then I would do the same thing going forward. And we're really trying to keep the heel pressed down. And when I'm going on this direction where it's on the outside of the ankle pulling me inward, I am pushing more on the outside of the foot. Again, like I would forward, where I'm trying to line up with that pinky toe or the outside of the foot a little more. I'm biasing the outside of the foot, but I still want to focus on keeping that knuckle of the big toe down, and I push that knee forward. If I pick it up, you see it kind of pulls me back. I'll actually show you on the other foot so you can see that a little bit clearer. But if I do it here, again, we need a nice big stretch in the band for this to work. What I'm doing is rotating that knee open, and then I'm trying to push the knee forward and help get me into that dorsiflexion a little bit better. But again, my weight is biased out here on the outside of the foot, but I'm not letting that foot roll open as I do this because I want to still feel being able to keep pressure through this foot as I go into that active dorsiflexion range. And so once I get through my 10 to 20 here, I'll kind of hang out, pump a little bit in that range of motion. And so this for me is a game changer. Any type of heavy squat day, Olympic lifting day, any of my plyometric work I'm doing, if I'm working on pogos, anything like that, this is a game changer for me. I've played around with a lot of different variations, especially using a lot more of the elevated position to try and pull into that dorsiflexion position a little bit deeper. I feel like it just doesn't give me the same carryover into my movements because I don't know, I feel like I do get a little more range of motion through this, but I don't get the same stability aspect. When I do this, the stability aspect's everything. Because at the end of the day, I can take all the weights I want to do, all my jumping. If I go up to the moon where there's no gravity, I don't have to fight that pressure anymore. I'm just going to kind of float around. When I load a weight on a barbell, I am fighting gravity more than I'm fighting the weight. And so I need active stability into the floor with that mobility to make sure I can beat gravity much better and more efficiently. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope this is useful for you guys. It's, again, a very useful tool for me and my athletes that we use this with. And so I'd love to hear how this works for you guys if you give it a go.